Today, let's make our own terrain for tabletop war games. It's really easy and it's pretty cheap too. Hi, my name is Josh and welcome to The Last Nerd. Now, terrain is such an important part of skirmish and war games on the tabletop. And the problem that we're often faced with as hobbyists is that we have to make a choice between expensive plastic kits from companies like Games Workshop or, pulling stuff off your shelf to use on the tabletop, for hills, such as, a stack of books or a water bottle, right? Pretty immersive stuff, huh? What we need is a solution that'll be inexpensive and that will keep us in the world that the game is being played. The solution to this problem is DIY terrain. Now, for those of us out there that's a very daunting task, because it can be when you are used to just playing the game or just painting the minis, putting together a whole bunch of stuff might sound like a task. Well, that's where you have it wrong, folks. For you see, arguably, DIY terrain is much like putting together miniatures, and it starts with collecting a bunch of pieces that you will eventually glue together.
So how do we start collecting pieces for your terrain? Well, the cheapest way to do so is to look for interesting patterns in things you might already have in your home, in your recycling, packaging materials from the things that you order online, or if you're like me and you don't have a lot of what you're looking for already, run down to the local dollar store and grab some toys with interesting parts to help you out with the process. Find whatever floats your boat or catches your eye. There's no wrong answer here. If you want to get fancy, order a DIY straw kit off of Amazon. It looks fantastic as piping, and is pretty affordable too. I don't have an affiliate link, but I'll put the link to the product in the description below. You want the base of your terrain to be solid so your build sticks to it and remains durable when you're playing your game, transporting them, etc. So at least you want something like cardboard or chipboard. Most people seem to use MDF for their scratch build bases, as you won't have to stack it in layers like you would with chipboard or cardboard, but MDF can get pretty pricey. As the goal here is to keep costs low, I found this small plank of wood at the dollar store. Ideally, you want a material that is thick enough that doesn't bend a lot, and not so thick that your minis would have a crazy time getting on top of it. Some of your pieces may need smoothing out or a way to blend them better into the base, so pick a molding material of your choice. Clay, paper mache. I chose plaster of Paris because you can get 4 pounds of it for $7 at Michael's. Enough said. I looked over the pieces I gathered and thought about how I could put them together. This process actually started at the store before I bought them. There's so many different combinations, I just lined them up as much as I could in a way that made sense to me. I then planned out what parts I didn't need so I could cut them off. After cutting, I lined them up again to double check everything was in order before I started gluing. I'm going to be using this terrain for Warhammer 40k, so I want a general sci-fi vibe. These water gun handles over here will serve as some sort of fuel tank, and over here I'm gonna have a couple of bronze statues of 2 individuals locked in combat. Before gluing though, I marked on the base where everything was going to be and then carefully took a knife and whittled away the sharp edges of my wood so it was slope shaped. Then it was just a matter of gluing all the pieces together just as I had planned. Make sure to use super glue here, as it will hold a lot better than PVA glue. After this, I mixed up some plaster and smoothed out some of the edges on the bottom of the terrain, and added some grit here and there to add a bit of extra texture. To add even more texture, on the base itself, I put down some tacky PVA glue and sprinkled on some fine police sand. I also got this on Amazon. Now, we're ready to rock. So if you've made it this far, congratulations, you've made it to the fun part. It's just like painting a mini, only you're not really gonna pick out any of the details in particular, as you still want your models to be the things that stand out most on the tabletop. Start with priming. I'm using Krylon's Flat Black. Say goodbye, Chaos. This is where the build starts looking like one cohesive piece. Next, I'll give it a general zenithal highlight. You don't have to use an airbrush like me. You could always use a white rattle can, as it will give you very similar results. Base coat time. Everything gets its respected color in multiple thin layers. Again, airbrush isn't necessary here if you don't have access to one. A normal brush will do. I decided to airbrush the bits that I wanted to be metallic to maintain the dark shadows and to give them a much more worn look. Do some light spot dry brushing of lighter shades in certain areas as you see fit. Whip up a little black wash. I used acrylic ink and Midwinter Mini's thinner potion and dribbled that over spots that should be especially dark or grimy in your eyes. Black paint thinned down with water will also do as a wash mixture. Now you can stop here and have a fantastic piece of terrain. However, I took it one step farther. I made a shiny thinner with a gloss medium and made a brownish grime wash to complement the black wash on these tanks here, and even let it dribble down to the base. And you just let all that dry and that's it. Here's our terrain.
Let's go look at some numbers real quick. I got my iPad here. Let's look at Games Workshop website. So here it is. Let's type in terrain. All right, scenery and terrain. Let's just look at some of the first ones. Okay, 47, 60. We sort it by like lowest price. Price low to high. Oh, of course it's gonna be all that. Okay, first thing we got is Mines of Moria from the Lord of the Rings stuff. 29 bucks. Okay. Some detail there, it's pretty cool, but it's not really sci-fi. Let's see the first sci-fi we get. Okay, so you got Necromunda, that makes sense. Got some Necromunda stuff for $40. And if we keep scrolling, it looks like they're like 45 bucks. It looks like a lot of them are in the $40 range. There's a lot of them in 60 too. So around, you know, anywhere from 29 to 60, 75. Wow, that's 80, 100, 100. I think that's a lot of models. So it seems like on average, the official Games Workshop terrain is around 45 to 60 bucks. Unless you want to spend a lot more for a lot more plastic, or if you want to spend a little less for some of the Hobbit / Lord of the Rings stuff. So it looks like the official Games Workshop kind of average for terrain is around 40 to 60 bucks. Considering that $29 one as well. How much did we spend on this project? Well, I had a whole bunch of stuff already. I had some paint. So not including any paints, paintbrushes, acrylic ink. I spent around $20 between the dollar store and Michael's for the plaster, but considering that I didn't even use much of the plaster, I used like a tiny bit. The cost of the actual things that I used, I spent under $10 on materials here for this project. That's a steal when you compare it to Games Workshop with their stuff, and you still got to put it together too, and you kind of got to stick with a lot of their stuff unless you want to do a lot of extra work. Here with our materials, you can do a lot more, a lot easier, completely customize it. The sky and your imagination are the only limits to what you can do with this terrain if you make it yourself. But if you want to just look at the prices under $10 versus Games Workshop's lowest costed terrain at $29. The average is like $45. That's a significant difference. That's at least $19 to $30, $40 difference. And when you factor in shipping and all of that, it goes up even higher. You can do a lot for a little amount of money. You know, it might have to put in a little bit more work, but in the end, if you make it yourself, you're gonna be spending less money and you're gonna be happier because you made it yourself. I hope this tutorial helped you out, or inspired you to make some terrain, or, you know, helped you work on that pile of shame, if you know what I mean. And hey, maybe it just gave you a creative idea. Please tell me all about it in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another one of my uploads. And if you're feeling lucky, hit that share button, and it'll really help this channel to grow. Thanks everyone, and I will see you all in the next video.